Let's transition to some NFL. And let's go to Cleveland and let's talk about Sheduer Sanders, as there was an NFL writer that had a quote on Sheduer at OTAs in Cleveland watching Sheduer. This NFL writer says, quote, Sheduer has been impressive. And this was Sheduer Sanders' quote, talking about his experience so far being on the Browns. This is Sheduer. He says, quote, I just have to lock in, stay focused on what's present. And the quarterbacks on the Browns roster is Deshaun Watson, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, ahead of Sheduer Sanders right now. And the Cleveland Browns drafted Sheduer Sanders with their 5th overall pick. He was the 144th overall pick. So, before I get into whether or not I believe Sheduer is going to be the week 1 starter for the Cleveland Browns, it's something that I've been wanting to talk about since the NFL draft, and I haven't had an opportunity to talk about it much. I did go live about it during the NFL draft, but now with the cameras rolling, it's something that's been on my mind when it comes to Sheduer Sanders and him being drafted in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns. Let's be real. The NFL blackballed Sheduer Sanders. Whether or not they want to admit it or not, the NFL colluded together to blackball Sheduer Sanders. And I'm looking and thinking back pre-NFL draft, and I'm listening to NFL draft experts like Mel Kiper, Todd McShay. These draft experts, none of them had Sheduer Sanders anything less than the 3rd best quarterback on the draft board. None of them. The only quarterback that I heard that was a bona fide better quarterback than Sheduer Sanders was Cam Ward. Cam Ward played at the University of Miami, and he was the 1st overall pick by the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward was the only quarterback who was considered to be better than Sheduer Sanders. And so I'm watching the draft, as we all are watching the NFL draft, and I'm watching Jackson Dart, Tyler Show, Jalen Milroe, Dillon Gabriel, all be drafted ahead of Sheduer Sanders. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, don't ever tell me it's about football. Don't tell me it's about your skill set or your talent. Because if it's about your skill set or your talent, and if it's about football, and we are evaluating these quarterbacks who are draft prospects in the NFL draft, there is no way in hell you could tell me or convince me that Sheduer Sanders is the 5th best quarterback off the board in the NFL draft. Jackson Dart, Tyler Show, Jalen Milroe. Hell, I used to watch Alabama games, and I used to think sometimes to myself, Jalen Milroe might have to consider switching positions. Jalen Milroe has never been better than Sheduer Sanders. Jackson Dart has never been better than Sheduer Sanders. Tyler Show has never been better than Sheduer Sanders. And Dillon Gabriel, damn sure, has never been better than Sheduer Sanders. So the NFL blackballed Sheduer Sanders, but the reason why the NFL blackballed Sheduer Sanders is because of Deion Sanders. The only way for the NFL to get back at Deion is through Sheduer. Deion is a established head coach at the collegiate level. He was one of the greatest athletes in sports history. Forget about just the NFL. He was one of the greatest athletes in sports history, and people didn't like Deion's personality. They didn't like his big personality and his aura. And I think that's the reason why they blackballed Sheduer Sanders, because they don't like Sheduer Sanders' big personality and his aura and his confidence. But I've always said and wondered why those same people didn't have an issue with Baker Mayfield. When Baker Mayfield was at the University of Oklahoma and playing in the NFL as the quarterback, Baker Mayfield also had a big personality and also was extremely demonstrative. And when he made a play, he celebrated in a big, big way. And so folks celebrated Baker Mayfield, and they called it passion. Also, Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel was also celebrated for his passion for the game as a quarterback. And Johnny Manziel was on crack. He was on crack, and folks celebrated Johnny Manziel the same way that they celebrated Baker Mayfield. But we don't celebrate Sheduer Sanders in that same way. I found that very odd. So for me, Sheduer Sanders falling to the 5th round and there being 143 players drafted ahead of Sheduer Sanders is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm tired of these NFL GMs and these owners trying to convince me that it's about your talent or it's about your skill set. No, it's about whether or not they like you when they bring you into these meetings. It's been all about that. It's about whether or not they like you and whether or not they can relate to you. It's not about how good you are as a player. So don't sell me on the idea that, oh, it's about your talent or it's about your skill set. No, it's not. Because if it was about that, Sheduer Sanders would have been drafted ahead of Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shout, Dylan Gabriel for sure. Now, Jackson Dart, he's nice, but I still would take Sheduer over Jackson Dart. And I'm looking at Sheduer Sanders, right? At the University of Colorado. In 2023, he had 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 3,230 passing yards, completing 69% of his passes. He follows that up in 2024. He had 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, over 4,000 yards passing, completing 74% of his passes. In 2024, that was a single season passing yards record and completion percentage record at Colorado. And so in his 2 seasons at Colorado, 64 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 7,364 passing yards, completing 62% of his passes. And to me, Sheduer Sanders proved that he should be at least a top 3 quarterback drafted in the NFL draft. And this is the thing with Sheduer. Sheduer doesn't have the mobility like a Cam Ward has or like a Cam Newton had at his Auburn days. But Sheduer Sanders and his precision in the pocket is something that we should commend him for and give him credit for. Sheduer Sanders doesn't have great athletic ability. Now, I think his athletic ability is underrated, but he's not a great mobile quarterback. But I believe that Sheduer Sanders is a great pocket passer, and that's your number one job at the quarterback position in the NFL. I don't give a damn how great of a mobile quarterback you are. Your job as a quarterback, the number one responsibility is for you to throw the football down the field. And I believe Sheduer Sanders is a great pocket passer. And I believe he can develop into being an elite pocket passer in the NFL. And honestly, and it's no coincidence that he had a lot of conversations and he really mirrors Tom Brady. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be as great as Tom Brady was, but he's great in the pocket as a passer. And so when I look at Sheduer Sanders in Cleveland, right, as crazy as it was that Sheduer fell to the 5th round, I honestly believe that it was a blessing in disguise for Sheduer, because he is going to Cleveland and to a team that has uncertainty at the quarterback position. There is no bona fide starter in Cleveland. Now, if Sheduer, obviously, if he went to the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen, the Philadelphia Eagles with Jalen Hurts, the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow, Sheduer Sanders would not be given an opportunity to start for the Browns or any team all season long. He wouldn't be given an opportunity. But with the Browns, he has a chance to be their starter at some point in the season. Deshaun Watson injured his Achilles. He's probably not even going to be on the team the entire season. Joe Flacco is washed. I love Joe Flacco. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's one of the most clutch quarterbacks in NFL history. But Joe Flacco's best days are behind him. Kenny Pickett, he hasn't proven anything in the NFL. And Sheduer Sanders is better than Dylan Gabriel. So to me, honestly, the only real competition that Sheduer has in Cleveland is Joe Flacco. And Joe Flacco is old. He's old. So I'm going to say it now. I'm going to put this on record right now and get this out the way. Sheduer Sanders is already better than Kenny Pickett. He was better than Dylan Gabriel in college, and he will have a better career than Dylan Gabriel will in the NFL. So, to me, the only real competition for Sheduer is Joe Flacco. That's the only real competition for Sheduer. It's Joe Flacco. Honestly, I believe Kenny Pickett and Deshaun Watson will be off the roster at some point in the season. I believe Dylan Gabriel will be on the practice squad, and Sheduer will back up Joe Flacco until the Browns find themselves not going to the playoffs and they have to insert Sheduer Sanders in as their quarterback to see what they've got in him. So, do I believe Sheduer Sanders will be the week 1 starter for the Browns? Probably not. But I do believe Sheduer Sanders will get his opportunity at some point during the regular season, and he can show the Browns what he's made of. And make no mistake about it. Because Sheduer fell to the 5th round and was the 144th overall pick, trust me when I tell y'all, Sheduer is using that as motivation and as fuel to make him a better quarterback overall. Deion and Sheduer, they working. They are working. And I heard earlier today, Deion came out and said that it was crazy how there were people that were saying that Sheduer was wearing headphones in meetings with these teams during the draft process. Deion already came out and said that those were false narratives around Sheduer. Sheduer is one of the most professional college prospects we've seen. So that was crazy. But yes, I believe at some point during the season, Sheduer will get his opportunity to start for the Cleveland Browns. It may not be week 1, but it may be week 6 or 8. And I hope it's not in the beginning of the season because the Browns do play the Packers. All y'all know I'm a Packers fan. And I want Sheduer to be successful in the NFL. So I hope Sheduer doesn't start early in the season, but if he does get his opportunity, good for him. But considering the Browns don't really have a bona fide starter at the quarterback position, Sheduer Sanders definitely will have an opportunity to start at some point this season. And I'm excited for it because I think he's going to take advantage of it and prove all the doubters wrong. Everybody go and follow Wise Guys on Twitter at WiseGuys_H. Also on Facebook, Wise Guys. And be sure to follow Wise Guys on Instagram at These Guys Know Sports. Don't forget, each and every Monday, the We Not Boxed In podcast with myself and Cincinnati Bearcats legend Melvin Levitt discussing all the latest in sports news. And my boy Dante with On Impact Recruiting Services behind the scenes. I'm Tre Larkins signing off of Wise Guys Sports. Everyone enjoy y'all week. Peace.